I texted in the family group chat, "Flight arrives at 5 p.m., can someone pick me up?" My brother replied with just 3 words, "Figure it out." My stomach sank, not because I couldn't get home on my own, but because it was yet another reminder, I didn't matter to them. They knew I'd been gone for over 2 years, working quietly, keeping my life to myself, yet the moment I asked for the smallest help, they acted like I was a burden. The chat blew up with laughing emojis from my cousin Jenna and a snarky "maybe. Uber will take pity on you" from my aunt. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding, not from sadness, but from something else. They had no idea who they were talking to anymore. Before I continue, make sure you hit subscribe and share this video, because what happens next will make you rethink every family reunion you've ever been to. I put my phone down, biting back a smirk. This wasn't going to end with me begging for a ride. I had my own plans for tonight, and if they thought they could keep treating me like the broke, desperate girl I used to be, they were about to learn exactly how wrong they were. What none of them knew was that my 2 years away had been the most important years of my life. Years that turned every cruel joke, every petty jab, into fuel. And tonight, I was coming back, not as the forgotten, jobless Evelyn they remembered, but as someone they couldn't even dream of competing with. The best part? They wouldn't realize it until they were standing right in front of me, with all eyes on them and nowhere to hide. I booked my ticket straight into the city instead of my old hometown airport. If they wouldn't pick me up, I'd make my own way there, but not in the way they imagined. I slid into the back seat of a black luxury SUV, the kind that makes heads turn, my driver already holding the door open before I even stepped outside. I kept my sunglasses on, not because I needed them indoors, but because I wanted the full effect when I walked into my parents' house later. The ride from the airport wasn't just about getting home, it was about rehearsing. Every smirk, every mocking word they had thrown at me over the years was replaying in my mind. I wasn't going there to fit back into the family. I was going there to set the record straight. 2 years ago, I left after a family dinner that ended in one of the worst humiliations of my life. My brother, Aaron, had just bought a new house, and the entire night was about his success, while my parents kept making jokes about me still chasing silly dreams. They didn't know that my so-called silly dream was already becoming a reality. I kept my head down, kept quiet, and let them believe I was failing. It was easier that way, until now. When I arrived at my old neighborhood, I noticed something strange. Parked outside my parents' house were way more cars than usual. SUVs, sedans, even a rented van. My stomach tightened, not from nerves, but from curiosity. Was there some kind of party I wasn't told about? I stepped out of the SUV, and the driver immediately pulled my designer luggage from the back. A few neighbors glanced over, doing double takes. They weren't used to seeing me like this. Inside, the house was buzzing with laughter and chatter. It wasn't just my immediate family, it was a full gathering. Cousins, aunts, uncles, all in one place. I realized instantly what was happening. They'd planned a big family dinner, and hadn't told me. Probably assumed I wouldn't show up. I scanned the room, and then I saw him, Aaron, leaning back in a chair, holding a drink, the golden boy smile plastered across his face. "Evelyn," he said, sounding surprised but not exactly thrilled. "Didn't think you'd actually make it." I smiled back, but not with warmth. "Neither did I replied, my voice steady. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, assessing, judging, ready to find something to gossip about later. What they didn't know was that I had something in my bag, something that would change this entire night in a way they'd never forget, and I wasn't going to reveal it just yet. Aaron smirked and took a sip from his glass, clearly waiting for me to slip up so he could make one of his famous "Evelyn can't keep up" jokes. My parents didn't even get up from the table, they just gave me that awkward half-smile people use when they're deciding whether you're worth acknowledging. I set my bag down quietly, scanning the table piled high with food, roast chicken, pasta, salads, bread, everything I used to help prepare when they needed an extra pair of hands. Funny how no one had called me this time. "Where's your ride?" Jenna, my cousin, piped up from the far end, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Or did you finally find a friend with a car?" A few people chuckled. The kind of chuckle that's not about the joke, it's about the target. I could have said 100 things right there. I could have told them about the driver waiting outside in a luxury SUV. I could have mentioned that my ride had dropped me off after a week-long business trip across 3 countries. But no, this had to be played slow. I smiled faintly and said, something like that. As I sat down, Aaron leaned over and lowered his voice so only I could hear. Just so you know, this is kind of a family thing tonight. You weren't really on the list. He leaned back, clearly expecting me to be embarrassed. Instead, I reached into my bag and pulled out a sleek, matte black envelope, setting it on my lap without opening it. I let my fingers rest on it casually, like it meant nothing. But inside was something worth more than the entire house we were sitting in. My heart raced, not from fear, but from anticipation that I caught my dad's voice over the clinking of silverware. You've been gone for years, Evelyn, and now you show up out of nowhere? What's the plan? Are you staying with us? You know the guest room is full. He said it like he was doing me a favor by even considering it. No, I said, my tone light but deliberate. I actually have a place nearby. I didn't elaborate. I wanted them to lean in, to wonder, to feel that gnawing curiosity they had denied me for so long. Aaron laughed under his breath. Oh? Upgraded from your old apartment with the leaky faucet. He thought he was clever. I turned to him slowly, meeting his eyes. You'll see, I said simply, and in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just going to be a night they remembered. This was going to be the night they realized everything they thought they knew about me was wrong. What none of them noticed was that my envelope had a second surprise tucked inside, one that, once revealed, would turn their smug little gathering into pure silence. But for now, I let them keep talking. Their words were just adding fuel to the fire I was about to light. Dinner went on like a performance they'd rehearsed for years, each of them playing their usual roles. Aaron bragged about his latest promotion, my parents gushed over how responsible he was, Jenna talked about her upcoming vacation like it was a royal tour, and the aunts nodded and smiled like they were in the presence of celebrities. I sat there, quietly cutting my food, letting them believe I was just a passive guest at their little show, but underneath the table, my fingers brushed against the envelope. I could almost feel the weight of what was inside: legal papers, bank statements, and a deed with my name printed across it in bold. That envelope was more than proof of my success. It was my weapon. Halfway through the meal, my Aunt Linda leaned forward. So, Evelyn, what do you do these days? Or are you still figuring it out? Her tone was syrupy sweet, but her eyes were sharp. The table went quiet, all ears waiting for the punchline they hoped I'd give them. I smiled faintly. Something like that, I said, my voice calm. Just a small business project I've been working on. Aaron jumped in, chuckling. Small? What is it? Dog walking? Etsy crafts? Oh wait, let me guess, you're one of those digital nomads now. More laughter. I felt the heat rise in my chest, but not from anger. It was the thrill of knowing they were digging their own graves. That's cute, I replied, still smiling. You'll find out soon enough. I could see the irritation flash in his eyes. People like Aaron hated not having the upper hand. He thrived on being the one with the story, the news, the glory. Me keeping quiet was throwing him off balance. By dessert, the air in the room felt different. The jokes about me weren't landing as easily, and I could tell they were starting to sense something was off. My parents exchanged glances. Aaron avoided my eyes now, though he kept up his loud stories, and then, as if the universe wanted to hand me the perfect setup, Aaron clinked his glass and said, "By the way, everyone, I have an announcement." The room hushed. He smiled, basking in the spotlight. I just bought a new property, vacation home in Florida. Gasps and congratulations filled the air. He looked at me, smirking again. Don't worry, Evelyn. Maybe someday you'll get to visit. If you can afford the plane ticket. I leaned back in my chair, sliding the envelope onto the table in front of me. That's funny, I said softly, because I have an announcement too. The chatter stopped. Eyes turned to me. I tapped the envelope with one finger. But mine might just change this whole family's future. The way Aaron's smirk faltered in that moment was the first crack in the facade, and it was only going to get better from here. Aaron tried to laugh it off, but the sound came out thin, shaky. What, you win the lottery or something? He scoffed. I didn't answer. I slid the envelope across the table, slowly, letting every eye in the room follow it like it was a fuse heading toward an explosion. My dad reached for it, curiosity getting the better of him. As he opened it, the room went so quiet I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. He pulled out the top document, a property deed. His eyes scanned it once, then again. This is the Henderson building, he said slowly, his voice tight with disbelief. Aaron's jaw tensed. That's impossible. That building's worth $8.6 million, I cut in, my voice steady. And it's mine. Paid in full. Bought it last year. Murmurs rippled through the table. My aunt leaned forward like she was trying to catch a whisper. Aaron's smug expression was gone, replaced by something much better, pure, unfiltered shock. I reached for the next paper in the envelope. This is the lease agreement for the top 3 floors. I rent them out to corporate offices. Monthly. Income, I let the number roll off my tongue slowly, savoring it, around $130,000. The silence was deafening. My mother's fork slipped from her hand and clattered against the plate. Jenna's smirk vanished entirely, and, I added, pulling out one last paper, this is the business license for my company. You know? The small project you've all been laughing about. It's now one of the fastest growing consulting firms in the state. I've been traveling the world for the past 2 years setting up deals. So, yeah, I figured I could afford my own ride from the airport. Aaron's face turned red. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. My dad leaned back, still holding the papers like they might disappear. Why didn't you tell us? He finally asked. I smiled, picking up my glass of water. Because I wanted to see exactly who would treat me with respect, without knowing what I had. I glanced around the table, letting the weight of my words sink in. Looks like I got my answer. I stood, sliding my chair back. Enjoy your dinner, everyone. I have somewhere else to be tonight. I walked toward the door, my heels clicking against the floor, the room still frozen in stunned silence. As I stepped outside, my driver was waiting. He opened the door to the SUV. And I turned back just once. Aaron was standing in the doorway, watching me leave, his proud little world cracked wide open. I didn't need to say another word, because the best revenge wasn't in the papers, the property, or the income. It was in the fact that they would replay this night over and over, realizing they'd underestimated me, for the last time.